Huh?
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Stubbs, and welcome to another episode of The Stubbs Show. I thank you guys for joining me on today. I hope that you are feeling fabulous and having a wonderful day, keeping those immune systems built up, and most importantly, staying prayed up. This world is like, I don't know what to say, what is going on. We got COVID, we got hate crimes, we got this most recent incident in Colorado with the gun violence in the grocery store. I mean, there is so much going on all over this world that it's just creating a lot of extra fear in people. And my prayers go up and go out to the families who have lost anyone in that most recent shooting. And I just can't tell people more than enough times to stay prayed up. Every morning say a prayer, because you just don't know what you can encounter throughout your day. Could you imagine being in a grocery store and then just all of a sudden hearing gunshots ring out? Like, you don't know what to do. And things like this are beginning to create fear in people in many of ways. You know, we already don't want to go out because you can get sick from COVID. People are fearful of taking the vaccination. And then now we have gun violence. This person just going crazy shooting up a grocery store. Like, that is some crazy stuff. So you guys, keep yourself prayed up. My special guest on today happens to be discussing her book, which has something to do with gun violence. So you guys, you don't want to miss out on this interview coming up, because this is going to be a great show, especially if you are a parent and had to deal with your child dealing with gun violence. So you guys, we're getting ready to get this show started. We're getting ready to take a quick break. Remember, follow the show on Instagram at _Stubbs_show, and also on Facebook at The Stubbs Show. Let's get this thing kicked off. When we come back from this quick break, we'll have my special guest on, so don't go anywhere. All right, you guys, welcome back to The Stubbs Show. I hope you enjoyed that brief break. Remember, if you would like to become a guest on the show, or want your music played, or to have a commercial ran through our show breaks, you can just shoot me an email at worldoffaith@yahoo.com. Once again, that's worldoffaith@yahoo.com. But I'm getting ready to get into this interview for today. I am excited to have my special guest on for today, because I know that her testimony will be able to help other parents and give them encouragement. I am so thankful for having her on the show. My guest on today is an author of the book Cincinnati Doe. She's a mother, and she's telling her trial of her 30-day journey in the ICU. This book is a true story of tragedy that slowly finds its way to triumph and leaves you wondering what's in store for this young man with each turn of the page. Let me tell you, you guys, as I was reading this book myself, I got a little teary-eyed, because I'm a mom, and just reading, some of the things that she was going through and the strength that she had to build up to push through, I felt it in the story. And it's an open book, and I'm thankful that she is open about telling her testimony. So let me not hold you guys any further and introduce you to my special guest on today. Hello, Miss Donna Haynes. Are you there?
I am here, Shadonna. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us here on the Stubbs Show and telling your testimony. How are you feeling on today?
I'm doing well. I'm safe. I'm healthy. I'm blessed today. Thank you so much for asking.
That's a wonderful thing. I try to remind myself often, when people be like, how you doing? Don't be saying, okay, say blessed.
That's
I'm blessed.
right.
No matter what I'm through, I'm blessed.
That's right. I woke up this morning. I get to see another day. It's another chance to get it right.
Yes. So I did a brief introduction just to say what you do, but I would like you to go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. Let us know who Donna is.
Okay. Well, I'm just just like you. I'm a regular old middle class, hardworking woman, taking it one day at a time just to try to stay safe and healthy right now. You know, I was born and raised in Prince George's County, Maryland. I received an education through the PG County public school system, and I later got my degree at an HBCU in Maryland, Bowie State University. I'm going to go ahead and make that plug. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. I'm a mother of two amazing sons. I'm a divorcee after a 22-year marriage, which in itself created a major shift in my life. But it was after my son was shot 2.5 years ago when my life really took a turn. Though I had already somewhat been an advocate for gun violence awareness, that particular event just brought forth a whole new passion for me, a purpose, if you will. And I suddenly found myself becoming a caregiver, later an author and an activist, you know. So my family and I are true survivors in every sense of the word. And again, I will say we are definitely blessed.
And you also are the founder of the DMV Mothers Like Me. Tell us a little bit about that.
I am. And so DMV Mothers Like Me is a support group for mothers in the DMV area, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, who have been impacted by gun violence. And the purpose is to provide a safe space of communication, solutions, and just a place of healing and hope and empowerment. And it's also intended to be a hub of resources, things like crime and crisis programs, health and wellness programs, things that we don't generally know what to ask for when we're actually going through a trauma. So the goal is to provide information on things like that while giving each other the uplift that we need while we're going through our own tragedies.
Yes, so your book, Cincinnati Doe, once again, you guys, it's a 30-day journey in the ICU, and this book almost reads like you said, the journey, but it's like a journal, you know, heard story as if you would get up daily. Your story is very touchy, and I know that it took a lot to have to relive those situations to write about it. What made you want to share your story with the world?
Well, initially, I had no intentions of writing a book or sharing the story with anyone but my son. And so you're right. It reads like a journal because that's exactly what it is. So when my son was in the hospital, I had the wherewithal to start writing in the journal every day. And initially, it was just to keep track of all the medications he was on, you know, all of the different surgeries he was having. But after a couple of days, I felt like, you know what, I want this child, if he survives, I want him to know exactly what happened to him. So I started writing every single day in just like a little notebook like we used to use in school, the spiral notebooks. I just used one of those, and not really knowing if he was going to survive. I didn't know if he did survive, if he would be able to see, read, if he would even be able to comprehend if I read it to him. But something in me just said, you know, document everything. And so that's what I did. And my son miraculously recovered. He was shot in the head. I don't think that we said that in our initial introductions, but he was shot in the head. And generally you don't hear of many people with that injury surviving. So he is a miracle. And after a year, what I did, I gave him that journal. We had this big celebration of life for him at the 1 year mark of the shooting. And I gave him that journal. And after a couple of days, I went to him and asked him, so what do you think? Ready to have this deep conversation with him. And he confessed to me. He said, "Ma, I can't read your handwriting." Because I was writing pretty fast some days. There was a lot of chicken scratch, And so I promised him that I would type everything up for him so he could read it. And I never really got around to it until fast forward another year later. Here we are in a pandemic. I pulled that journal out and I started typing it up. And the more I typed, the more emotions started coming back, the more I started to remember. And before I knew it, I had this full manuscript. So, and it included so much information and emotion from a mother's perspective around gun violence, around traumatic brain injury. I remember it was during the pandemic when I wrote this, so I was grieving the death of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and I found myself grieving my son in a way that I couldn't when I was actually going through that storm. So I took the manuscript to my son and I asked him, what do you think about making this a book and actually publishing it? Because there's some people out here in this world that could really benefit from this story. It's a story of tragedy, but it's a story of triumph, too. It is definitely a story of hope and inspiration. And like I said, it includes things around gun violence, traumatic brain injury, even single parenting, So it's something in there for everybody to be encouraged by. And Lord knows we can all use a little bit of that right now. So that was really the purpose of writing it, yes.
Yes, ladies, there is a section and a part in the beginning of the book where you know how you're not with the dad anymore and he kind of wanted to bring something new up there and you were ready to go off. He was already for her. He was going to end up on her. Somebody was going to end up in another bed in the hospital.
Yeah, that was a big part of this. I was going to say that was a big part of the story, too, just kind of co-parenting, learning how to co-parent through a tragedy and realizing that the priority is the child, and you have to put everything else aside to move forward for the betterment of your child. So, yeah, that was definitely an interesting chapter in the book.
Yes, I tell you, this is really a good book, and I'm glad that your son was open about you sharing it. But I'm also glad that you just said, let me just start journaling and writing everything. Because I'm telling you, you went there on some of the things in the book. I don't want to give away too much because I want people to actually go and get the book. But in one chapter, you mentioned wanting to cry and feeling weak, but also having to remain strong for your son and keep your faith that he would survive this tragedy. Now looking back at the whole situation, what were some of the tools that you used to help you that could possibly help another mom listening that may be going through the same problem with her child, maybe in ICU or, dealing with something with gun violence? What were your tools that got you through?
Well, like I mentioned before, the journaling, that was therapeutic for me, actually, although the initial purpose was to document everything for my son, but I found it to be very, very therapeutic for me. It was a way for me to get all of my emotions out, where I had no outlet really. And that actually helped me sleep at night, believe it or not, just getting all of that off of my spirit. And then my faith, obviously, I will be the first to admit that my faith was tested a time or two throughout that experience, but it was reinforced, I would say, but when we have nothing else to lean on, your faith is really all you have to lean on. So I would say that also online support groups was a huge thing for me. When my son was first shot, maybe after the first week, I went online and just did a search for gun violence survivors or traumatic brain injury, and there's so many resources online. So I joined a couple of online support groups where folks in those communities, they were really my saving grace. They were the ones, they embraced me. They knew exactly what I was going through. They were able to give me advice and knowledge, things that I had no idea about. I didn't know what to expect. And they gave me, some questions that I could actually take back to the hospital and ask the doctors about specific things, So that was a huge tool for me. And then lastly, I was seeing a therapist, and mental health and therapy, things like that is like a risque topic to talk about, especially in the Black community, but it's necessary. And I'm not ashamed, I'm not embarrassed to say that I had an amazing therapist to help me get through that tragedy. I still see her because, it's still a process, but that was definitely a coping mechanism that helped me get through that.
I'm glad that you brought up mental health because especially in our Black communities, we shun that and we say, no, I'm not crazy or I'm not going to do. But then a lot of people don't understand why they can't get through certain problems and issues, and they're so stressed and they think that talking to their girlfriend is good enough or the family member or the pastor, but you need to talk to these people that's trained to help you deal with those mental issues. And I think that we need more people in counseling from our communities to assist them, especially with situations like this, because people feel like, okay, well, I lost my child, I'm going to smoke it away, sex it away, drink it away, I'm going to sit and depress it away, whatever it may be, and not understanding that there's other resources and people and ways that you can deal with this and come out on top instead of just being miserable because, this is something that can damage, people, to have to go through a situation like this. So I'm glad that you pushed that piece out there because we don't utilize counseling enough, in our community, and we definitely need it.
Absolutely.
So my next question is, nowadays it seems like every time I cut on the news and I hear or I talk with someone, children and teens are being killed by the hands of other children and teens by the use of guns, especially in our communities. How do we as parents take a stand to help stop the violence and stop the placement of these guns being put into our community in the hands of our children, because we know they're being placed in our community?
Shadonna, that's a whole different interview.
I know that can go on.
Topic, But, I wish that I had a crystal ball or a handbook that could give us all the answers to end gun violence. I really do. Gun violence is a public health crisis that we've been living in for as long as I can remember. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll figure out how to put an end to this epidemic in our lifetime, not even in our children's lifetime, But I think that there are some things that we could do to move us closer. It's just one step at a time, one day at a time, just like anything else. The first thing we need to do is vote. And I'm going to just put it out there. We need to get out here and vote. And I'm not just talking about in a presidential election. I'm talking about in these local and state elections because they are even more important. We have to know the background of the people that we're putting into office and where they stand on gun sense laws and how it directly impacts our communities. People like the mayors and the sheriffs and the district court judges that nobody really thinks about or cares about until we're standing in the courtroom or we're faced with a situation that really impacts our life, And then when those people are in the offices, we need to write to our politicians. It's our job as the constituents to hold politicians accountable for what they said they were going to do to get in office, right? I think those are two key pieces. Also, social media. Social media is so powerful, and sometimes I don't think we realize just how effective our words and our actions can be on this platform. If we see petitions that can protect our families, don't just scroll past them or ignore them. We got to read them. We got to sign them. They may affect your neighbor or they may affect your household. We also have to share stories and videos about senseless gun violence on social media to voice our disgust and our concern and create our own movement. We can't just share stories about the Karens that are mistreating us in the stores or the crooked cops or, you know, things like that. We have to initiate the same kind of energy and call to action when it's, you know, it's us doing the crime, right? We have to hold ourselves accountable and remember that Black lives have to matter to us all the time, even when it's not the police or a racist white person or somebody outside of our race. It has to be all the time. So if we see something, we have to say something. I mean, the person that shot my son over 2 years ago still hasn't been apprehended. And I know somebody knows something. You know what I mean? And
wow.
So that street code means absolutely nothing when it's your son, it's your daughter or father or your friend, you know. So at some point we have to hold ourselves accountable and value our own lives. And then lastly, I would say we have to get more involved. You know, there are all kind of local advocacy groups out here that support the fight against gun violence. You know, we can volunteer our time, our skills, our services, or make a donation if we want to. And as far as parents and specifically mothers are concerned, there are two major organizations that I can think of right off the top of my head, and that's Everytown for Gun Safety and Moms Demand Action. I become a member of both of those, and they are gun violence prevention organizations that help elect candidates that are, you know, gun sense. They advocate to pass gun safety laws that protect our families, like, you know, things around background checks and private sales and ghost guns, which is some of those illegal guns floating around and being put in our communities, like you said. And they also support survivors of gun violence, like my son and I. And, you know, that's been really crucial for me because when you hear the term survivor of gun violence, you think of people just like my son, somebody who was shot and survived. But it's also people like me. So I'm someone who loves and cares for someone who has been shot. If you've been threatened by a gun, you are a gun violence survivor. If you witnessed gun violence, you are a gun violence survivor. So these is organizations out here that support people like that, you know, including myself and my son. So those are things that I would say that we could do to become more involved and make sure these guns get out of the people's hands that don't need them.
Yeah, as parents especially, we're going to have to start fighting to do more because, like you said, in the streets with our kids, there's this don't snitch and snitches, snitches get stitches, and it's like if you tell you know you're uncool and all this other stuff, but you know we have to start enforcing that. Hey, in order for us to get our streets together, we're going to have to start opening up our mouths and making something happen because this don't tell stuff. When it happens to you, then you looking around like you want somebody to tell, but you need to be enforcing things before it even hits your doorstep. And that's one thing that I do not like when people just don't want to get involved because, well, that ain't got nothing to do with me. Oh, I'm going to mind my business, so I'm going to do. But when another race or police kill us, we out there deep. Could you imagine that if we backed the person who got hurt and then the person that's speaking up for the person that got hurt, if we went to those people's house and we enforced that you took that person out their house because they killed a child. You know, I see our seniors getting killed. And I'm like, we are the street boys from back in the days that you couldn't disrespect the block or bring that drama and problems to the block because that's where they made their money. Nowadays, there's no respect. There's no morals. There's no anything. And
no value
and we
for life.
Change that. Yes. Yes. And I'm sorry to hear that the person who did this to your son hasn't been caught yet, but we never know what other things could have happened to him as an effect to what he did, you know, because there's a cause and effect. And I'm a firm believer of you ain't getting away with nothing bad. The earth will find a way to take you off this earth at some point.
That's right.
So, you know, but if anyone knows anything about this case, I would suggest that they go ahead and speak up, and because a lot of times when you know something and you don't speak up or you don't make a move, that thing does hit your door for you to feel what it felt like to somebody else, and that's a part of karma.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
and it took my son a while to embrace that, where he had to finally let go that it was okay that the person hadn't been arrested yet, because he felt like that person will be dealt with in another way. You know, God will take care of that person. You know, and he had to let that part of his grieving go so he can start healing on the inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so that's what we're doing. We have focused our attention on so many other things, and you know, we just let it go. Because like you said, karma, you know, and the earth will take care of that person or those persons who injured him, who played a factor in injuring him.
And look, he survived, and there's great things coming from it. You know, sometimes we don't see the blessing in the problem, but when we look hard enough, there's a blessing, there's a reason for everything, which we're going to end with that. But before I give you this next question, go ahead and let the people know your contact information, where they can purchase this book, and anything that you have going on that you want to share with the audience. Go ahead and let that out for us now.
Okay, yeah, I would love for your listeners to get the book. Again, it's called Cincinnati Doe, A Mother's 30-Day Journey in ICU. It's available on Amazon, on paperback and Kindle, or you can go directly to our website, which is CincinnatiDoe.com. And Doe is D-O-E. I've had that question a couple of times. And for anyone listening who is a mother that lives in the DMV area or knows a mother who lives in the DMV area who has been impacted by gun violence and looking for some sort of support, please, please, please visit our website at dmvmotherslikeme.com, or if you want to email me directly, I encourage you to do that as well. I can be reached at dmvmotherslikeme@gmail.com. We'll be more than happy to embrace you into the fold and love on you the way you're supposed to be loved on. So those are my 2 shout-outs.
Her shout-outs. You guys, make sure you contact Ms. Donna Haynes to get a copy of this book. Let's show her some support, back her son during this time of healing, and let's share the story. It could be a great gift. If you know a mom that's going through something and you don't know how to talk to her, because I know I've been in situations like that where I just don't know what to say or what to do. This is the type of book that you can just pass to her and just say, go ahead and read it. And it's going to give her some hope, because in this book, she speaks on how someone else gave her hope through coming in through the in the waiting room, ICU waiting room, and just sharing their story that you didn't know about, and that gave you the hope to understand that your son is going to survive this. So get this copy, Cincinnati Doe, and share this interview with other people. But Ms. Haynes, I'm going to end this interview with allowing you this last question to encourage another mom out there. So the saying is that everything happens for a reason. There's a lesson in everything. And people say, oh, that's cliche or this and that, but I'm a believer in it. So as you look back over your situation and trial with your son, what would you say was a great lesson that you learned from it?
That's actually one of my favorite sayings. Everything happens for a reason. We may not always understand why things are happening to us the way they are or when they're happening, but it will be revealed in some form or fashion later on down the line, that's for sure. And so what I think has been the biggest lesson for me is that I'm stronger than what I thought I was, without a doubt. That there's also a saying, God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle, right? And so I uncovered strength, knowledge, and so much love in places that I never even knew existed. It's when we are in our darkest hour and at our lowest point, that's when we find what we need to survive. And that's exactly what happened to me. And I realize that, I embrace it, and I intend to continue to build on that and share my story with other people and help as many mothers as I possibly can. If I can just help one person, I feel like what happened to my son did not happen in vain.
Amen. Amen. Cincinnati Doe, a mother's 30-day journey in ICU. You guys make sure you check that out and get a copy. Miss Haynes, hold on the line. I thank you for joining us here on the Stubbs Show. You guys is listening. We get ready to take another break. Remember, she's also on Instagram at DMarieHaynes, and Haynes is Haynes. Make sure you get your copy. We'll be right back here on the Stubbs Show. Don't go anywhere.
Yay, what's up, man? It's your boy Mo You know what I'm saying? And make sure you follow me on Twitter, you know what I'm saying? And the gram. Get familiar with that music too, man. Stay locked. Stay locked. Stay locked right here on the Stubbs Show for good music and interviews. We got it for you, man.
All right, you guys, welcome back to the Stubbs Show. Remember, if you would like to have your music or commercial for your brand or business played throughout our commercial breaks in our shows, just shoot me an email at worldoffaith@yahoo.com. I would like to give a special thank you once again to my special guest on today for sharing her testimony, author Donna Haynes. Make sure you guys check out the book Cincinnati Doe, A Mother's Journey in ICU. I'm very grateful to be able to have the opportunity to interview her about this testimony, and thankful that she was able to record her raw feelings and share them with the world. I wanted to let you guys know that, a lot of times we go through things and we think about the embarrassment of it, or shame, or I don't want to tell nobody, what I've been through because I look like this and I don't want them to know the truth, or what are they going to judge me as, or what are they going to think about me. But you know what? Get that out your mind. Stop worrying about those type of things, because our trials and tribulations are to be shared with other people, to let someone else know that, hey, I made it through and you can too. A lot of people need to hear that someone else been through something similar to what they're going through, or see, so they know that what's on the outside has nothing compared to the strength that you have on the inside. And it is the storms that we go through and push through which helps us to be stronger. So there may be someone out there that's at the beginning or the middle of a storm and feeling like, hey, I can't make it. And this story, or your story, can help them to understand that, yes, you can. You got this. You can push through. On the other side is a rainbow. On the other side is a new season. But if you stay here, you're going to be stuck in a storm. Could you imagine being stuck in a storm for the rest of your life? Oh, that's worse than having to push through to get through to something better. So, share these podcasts that we do, because the whole point is to encourage other people to understand that you too can do it. Remember, you guys, I am always looking for guests to be on the show. This is another episode of Working Women Wednesday, where every Wednesday I bring you a businesswoman who will be able to encourage and connect with you to understand that you got this, queen. That's the point. You got this, queen. So I'm getting ready to end this show. I'll see you guys for the next episode. You can continue to follow me on Instagram at _Stubbs_show and on Facebook, The Stubbs Show. Remember, subscribe to our YouTube page at the Leap of Faith Network, or you can just type in the Stubbs Show, go to the page, and subscribe. We have some wonderful visual interviews up there for you to check out. So you guys, continue having a lovely day. Don't forget to pray, and I will see you for the next show.